EE bonds versus I bonds. Is one safer or better than the other right now? Hello, members, super savers, and bond course fans. I hope you're healthy and well. So, with all the market uncertainty and volatility, it seems that there's a renewed interest in EE bonds in our Diamond NestEgg community. EE bonds are also sometimes referred to by their official name as Series EE savings bonds. Double E bonds and I bonds share many similarities. So I think the easiest and simplest way to understand double E bonds is to see how they compare to I bonds. Here are the three topics that we'll be covering in today's video. 1. How are double E bonds different from I bonds? 2. How are double E bonds similar to I bonds? And 3. Could you earn more elsewhere than you would with double E bonds? As usual, here's our front of video disclaimer. For a detailed disclaimer, please refer to the end of this video. Let's dive in now, folks. How are double E bonds different from I bonds? I normally start my comparisons with similarities, but because all of us here in the Diamond NestEgg community will already have a good understanding of I bonds as a starting point, as I suspect, we're going to begin with the differences in this case. I think that understanding the differences between I bonds and double E bonds first may help you to figure out more quickly whether double E bonds might be a good fit for you personally or not. Here are the two primary differences between EE bonds and I bonds. Difference number 1. Unlike I bonds, EE bonds do not offer inflation protection. Difference number 2. Whereas the interest rate on an I bond changes every 6 months based on inflation, the interest rate on an EE bond stays the same for at least the first 20 years when you buy a new EE bond. At the time of this taping, the current annual interest rate is 2.7%, as you can see here, for EE bonds issued on May 1st, 2025 through to October 31st, 2025. Here's the slight twist with EE bonds though. While the current annual interest rate is 2.7%, if you hold your EE bond for 20 years, the Treasury guarantees the value of your new EE bond at 20 years will be double what you paid for it, even if the Treasury has to add money at 20 years to make that happen. This doubling at 20 years translates into an effective annual interest rate of 3.53%, so more than if you took just the current regular annual interest rate of 2.7% for 20 years, which would only give you a 70.4% increase. So the guaranteed doubling is a nice top-up feature for long-term investors who hold their EE bonds for at least 20 years. What this means is that if I buy $10,000 of EE bonds now, in May 2025, I will earn 2.7% every year for the first 20 years. That's this 2.7% here for all EE bonds issued between May 1st and October 31st, 2025. And my account should show a total value of $17,037.62 after 20 years at the 2.7% annual interest rate. Now, in year 20, the guarantee will kick in and Treasury Direct will make sure that I will have at least double the value of my initial $10,000 investment to $20,000, regardless of the interest rate I had earned before. Essentially, topping up the $17,037.62 that I've earned so far to a flat $20,000. So far, so good. Now, to make it a bit more complicated again, after the first 20 years, after the guarantee kicks in and at least doubles my initial investment, so from year 20 to year 30, the annual interest rate that you will earn on your EE bond could stay the same as in the first 20 years, or it could change. Now, the Treasury doesn't give much detail on their website about this potential interest rate reset after 20 years. They essentially only say that they have the right to do so, and if you do not want that new interest rate, or the new way the EE bond will earn interest in the last 10 years, you can cash it when it reaches 20 years and has at least doubled what you paid for it. Do keep in mind that while the EE bond interest rate stays the same for at least the first 20 years, when you buy a new EE bond, Treasury Direct does update this EE bond interest rate every May 1st and November 1st, when the I bond interest rate is also updated. This means that if I were to buy an EE bond that is issued after October 31st, 2025, the interest rate that I would earn on that new EE bond may or may not be the same as the one shown here at the time of this taping. Moving on now to the next section of today's video. How are EE bonds similar to I bonds? As I mentioned at the beginning of this video, EE bonds and I bonds share many similarities. Here are the 9 key similarities between EE bonds and I bonds. Similarity number 1. Like I bonds, EE bonds are always 30-year U.S. government savings bonds. This 30-year term means that if you buy EE bonds this year, those EE bonds will earn interest until the first of these events. You cash in the bond or the bond reaches 30 years. So, even if you do not cash them out when they mature after 30 years, EE bonds will stop earning interest at the 30-year mark. And being U.S. government savings bonds means that EE bonds are issued and explicitly backed by the U.S. government, bringing us nicely to similarity number 2 between EE bonds and I bonds. As EE bonds are Treasury non-marketable securities like I bonds are, this means that you can only buy them directly from the Treasury. You cannot buy EE bonds via Fidelity, Schwab, Vanguard, or any of the other leading brokers. Nor can you hold EE bonds in a retirement account. You will need to set up an account with Treasury Direct. This also means that you cannot sell EE bonds before they mature on the secondary market. The only way to cash out EE bonds before they mature is to redeem them early with the Treasury. Redeeming EE bonds from the Treasury basically means you give them back to the Treasury in return for your principal plus the interest earned up to that point of redemption. Please keep in mind that I will use the terms cash out and redeem interchangeably when talking about EE bonds, as I typically do when talking about I bonds. Similarity number 3. Like I bonds, EE bonds earn interest monthly, but that interest is only paid out to you in cash when you redeem your EE bonds. So, if you need your regular payments to live off of, EE bonds are not suitable for that purpose. Similar to I bonds as well, every 6 months, Treasury Direct adds the monthly interest that you earn on your EE bonds to the principal value of your EE bonds, which means that you will start earning interest on the entire principal value, including the recently earned interest, what Treasury Direct refers to as semi-annual compounding. So, as an EE bond holder, you're also benefiting from this compounding or growing principal balance over time. Similarity number 4. As with I bonds, there is an annual purchase limit of $10,000 per individual for EE bonds and a minimum 12-month holding period. This means that if you buy an EE bond that is issued today, under normal circumstances, the earliest you would be able to cash out that EE bond would be 12 months from now. I repeat, you cannot access that cash for at least 12 months. The one exception that we have found is if you're affected by disaster, as you can see from Treasury Direct's website. Due to disaster, you can cash your savings bonds even if they are less than a year old. Good to know, but this is definitely an exceptional circumstance in my mind. So, if you think you might be needing your money within the next year, EE bonds like I bonds would not be a good place to park that cash. Similarity number 5. If you redeem your EE bonds after the minimum 12-month holding period, but within the first 5 years, there is an early withdrawal penalty of the last 3 months' interest. For example, if you cash in the bond after 18 months, you get the first 15 months of interest. Which brings us nicely to similarity number 6. When you cash out, you will always get back your principal or par value, plus the interest earned up to the point of redemption, less any applicable early withdrawal penalty, if you cash out in the first 5 years, for example. Meaning, you know that if you put in $10,000, you'll earn interest on that $10,000. And when you redeem your $10,000 of EE bonds, you get back that $10,000, plus interest earned minus any applicable early withdrawal penalties. Similarity number 7. Taxes on EE bond interest earned are due only when you redeem your EE bonds. Which makes sense since like I bond interest, EE bond interest is only paid out to you when you redeem your EE bonds. paying taxes on EE bond interest earned at redemption is the default option. There is a way to pay those taxes annually, like with I bonds, but similar considerations and complexities apply to both EE bonds and I bonds if you choose to go down this route. For those of you who might be interested in learning more about this, I've linked our YouTube video on paying I bond taxes annually versus at redemption, as well as this Treasury Direct page on how to go about this below this video for your convenience. Similarity number 8. As with I bonds and all other treasuries, EE bond interest is subject to federal income taxes, not to state and local taxes. Similarity number 9. You can potentially avoid taxes on EE bond interest earned, as you could with I bonds, by using your EE bond to pay for higher education, if you qualify. If you're interested in doing this, I've included the link to this Treasury Direct page below this video as well, because restrictions do apply. Right. Now that you're well versed on how EE bonds are similar to and different from I bonds, let's move on to the next section of this video. Could you earn more elsewhere than you would with double E bonds? EE bonds are generally considered low-risk, low-return investments, as you can see from these historical EE bond interest rates. And if we scroll down further, we can see that the last time EE bond interest rates were somewhat meaningful were back in the early 2000s. As I shared with you earlier, at the time of this taping, the EE bond interest rate is 2.7% for all EE bonds issued on May 1st, 2025 through to October 31st, 2025. So let's say that I plan on buying EE bonds today and redeeming them in 5 years, when I no longer have to pay the early withdrawal penalty upon redemption. I would be better off buying this 5-year T-note because it is paying a higher interest rate right now. And even if my plan were to hold my EE bonds for 20 years until they doubled in value, giving me an effective annual interest rate of 3.53%, I would be better off buying this 20-year T-bond because it's also paying a higher interest rate than double E bonds right now. In addition to the interest rate, though, which at this point would not encourage me to buy any EE bonds anytime soon, there are some additional factors that you may want to consider here. And perhaps one of these additional factors might swing you towards either EE bonds or a T-note or T-bond. 1. You cannot redeem an EE bond at all within the first 12 months, and you'll have to pay an early withdrawal penalty of the last 3 months' interest if you want to cash out your EE bond in the first 5 years. With a T-note or T-bond, there's generally no minimum holding period if you buy it via one of the leading brokers. And there's no early withdrawal penalty if you want to cash out your T-note or T-bond, leading us straight into point number 2. With a T-note or T-bond, when you want to cash out before maturity, you will need to sell it on the secondary market. And when you do this, the price you get back may or may not be what you expected. With an EE bond, you always know the price that you will get when you cash out. As we discussed earlier, when you cash out EE bonds by redeeming them with Treasury Direct, you will always get back your full principal or par value, plus the interest earned up to the point of redemption, less any applicable early withdrawal penalty, if you cash out in the first 5 years, for example. 3. If you're buying your T-note or T-bond with Treasury Direct or in a normal taxable brokerage account, you will be getting regular cash flow from the coupon payments on that T-note or T-bond, and taxes will be due in the year that interest is earned and paid out on that T-note or T-bond. With an EE bond, because the interest accrues to your principal, there are no regular coupon or cash payments before maturity, and taxes on interest earned in any given year are only due in the year that you redeem that EE bond, not in the year that the interest is earned. Now, as I touched upon briefly already, personally, we would only consider EE bonds under 2 circumstances. First, if they happen to have a higher coupon than a comparable treasury at the time of purchase. Or second, if we just wanted the clarity, simplicity, and comfort of knowing that our initial EE bond investment would automatically accrue interest in our Treasury Direct account and at least double over 20 years, with taxes only due at payout, and that EE bond would be redeemable at full face value if we ever needed the cash. But everyone's financial journey is different. So what do you think about EE bonds? Do you own any? Or are you thinking of picking up some for your portfolio? Drop a comment below and let me and the community know. Fun fact about EE bonds. Here's the amount of EE bonds that are currently outstanding at the time of this taping. And here's the amount of I bonds that are currently outstanding at the time of this taping. I bonds do seem to be quite a bit more popular than double E bonds. Now, if you do want to buy EE bonds, the steps for buying EE bonds are similar to those for buying I bonds. So what I've done is link this how to buy I bonds video below this video for your convenience. Just be sure that when you get to this Buy Direct screen in your Treasury Direct account to click on Series EE for double E bonds rather than Series I for I bonds. Likewise, the steps for redeeming EE bonds are similar to those for redeeming I bonds. I've linked this how to redeem I bonds video below this video for you as well. And for those of you who subscribe to Your Financial Journey, check out Ava's brand new video here for a deeper dive into stagflation, one of the risks that Fed Chair Jerome Powell warned of in this week's FOMC meeting when they held rates steady. What is stagflation? What caused it in the 1970s? And could it happen again? All right, members, super savers, and bond course fans, I hope you enjoyed this video and learned something new. And as always, if you want to learn more about bond investing and building a bond portfolio while rates are at good levels, then check out this video here on our bond courses. I've linked all the details on our bond courses and YouTube Super Saver membership below this video for your convenience. See you again very soon with more brand new wealth building content for your financial journey.